Welcome to episode 4 of the Self Sunday Show, hosted by me, Oliver Jude. Today we are bringing you self-reflection from MD Creative's Resource Centre, formerly known as Service Department Store on Bridge Street in my hometown of St Helens. The Self Sunday Show allows you an hour every Sunday to reconnect yourself, listening to self-love, self-care, self-belief, self-evaluation, self-reflection and self-success. Today we are joined by Miguel Doforo, the Creative Director of MD Creatives, the overarching brand of MD Creatives Academy, MD Commercial and the Black Canvas Project. Miguel's here talking everything self-reflection, his journey to success, best achievements and journey's top tips for self-reflection. Miguel, thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you on, and please introduce yourself to our listeners, telling them exactly who you are.
Well, I think you've done a very great job of that. Thank you, Oliver. But yeah, I am Miguel Doforo, and I am the Creative Director and founder of MD Creatives, formerly known as MD Productions.
Fantastic. So let's jump straight into self-reflection then. What's your definition of self-reflection? What's your interpretation of it?
I think it's about going inside and connecting what's in there. And I think it's about honesty to yourself before you have honesty with others. I know it's going to sound a bit cliche, but you were talking about the man in the mirror. And I think you have to go inside and feel what you feel. React because how you want to react, not because of a trigger led by someone else or something else. But I'm many years down the line, and still trying to learn, and through different experiences and pitfalls, that self-reflection becomes something else, and it becomes stronger. It grows with each obstacle that you face.
Yeah, totally agree. Definitely going in on yourself and being true to yourself.
I think that's where the answer is. There's nowhere to hide, I think times when you're brought to a point of nothing, there is something, because you have your life, you have health, you can breathe. Sometimes it's difficult to see that when the clouds are there, and trying to get to that self-reflection. But I think as you overcome certain things, you're able to go back to the core foundations of, okay, well, I'm here, I'm in this space, what can I do with that? How can I move forward?
Yeah, so how would you say you self-reflect?
Dance, is one, is a key thing for me. It's different when I say dance. So I go into the studio and I'll teach and work on something. That isn't as self-reflect as just going into the studio and dancing because I want to and because I can, to whatever song that I feel. Yeah. So I enjoy going into the space and just feeling the music and where does that take me. I do a lot of journaling. When I say journaling, it's more like mind map and bullet points for me, phrases than paragraphs. I'm not great at writing, so and I lose focus. But if I'm bullet pointing on my map, and I can go for ages because it's lots of different things. Of late, I've took to walking and spending time with my dog. So this is something that has come just recently in my life. We've had him for about 8 months now. 8-9 months, and I spend, you look at, it's so bizarre because obviously I know you're a dog lover, and so many people around me are and have been for years, and I just didn't get it at all. I've always loved dogs and animals, but not like this, where I love the vulnerability that he has. He asks for nothing, of course he needs feed and everything else, but I mean it's just nothing in return. He'll come and snuggle in, you'll go for a walk with him and he'll look back and check that you're still there, and he'll off you'll go. And them things for me are lots of self-reflection, to be outside with the trees. This is my favourite season right now, autumn, for so many reasons, the smell in the air and how it feels, but also the leaves coming off the trees, the ground, and it going to bear. I connect with it so much. And of course it's Halloween. But I spend, that's, as I've got older, those things now are what I do to self-reflect. So always on a Sunday, I'll go,
That was my next thing, of how often would you do that?
Yeah, so I try, so every morning, anyone who knows me now, will know I'll always hug a tree. And I had a conversation about this because we were talking about hugging trees. And when we were hugging trees and taking something, the hugging trees and giving. It was a conversation, I think, in the daily grind to come up, but I'll always like to connect with nature. So every morning I will do something like that. I'll say my affirmations, I'll listen to something, not always as in-depth as I should, sometimes we can derail, and it's how we can understand that we derail, and it's important that people listening know that it's not always a get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's so consistent, it isn't, and that's important, you can't always do that or as well, and that's how the self-reflection comes in, because you go, well, what did I do? So I'll try and do something every day, but sometimes it's more intensified than others, and then I use a Sunday as that time to go for the walk with MJ, be outside. I'll do a longer meditation and affirmations, connect with loved ones, people close to me. So I've made a list of people that I think it's important that I connect to, who are valued in my life. So I'll make sure I do that on a Sunday, and then I'll do my planning for the week on the Sunday. So I'll try and make that day the day where I'll do most of it, but I try and do something most
days. And if,
days.
for whatever reason, so obviously in the crazy world that you live in, there's always events, travelling, there's everything always going on at once. If you can't do as much intensified self-reflection as you wanted to on a Sunday, how do you feel that affects your week and you?
Yeah, and that's when you talk about going inside, and that's your own triggers, because then that can be a reaction for me, because sometimes I think, well, why haven't you? Or I'd get a bit annoyed with myself. So now what I try and do is learn from it from the following week if I haven't, because if I can take time to be on social media, or, that time could have been more well spent. And it's like a battle with yourself. You have to look at what is the need and what you need now. And, we're all drawn and attracted to different things, and they can derail you and send you in different places. So it's how you bring it back to the centre. So I will then say to myself, okay, you said you didn't have time to do a 20-minute meditation, but actually you connected with someone that you might not have needed to, you spent time on social media, you procrastinated with something. But I'm also learning of not being so hard on myself, but how do you learn from the situation? But I also know in my mind that doing those things is the most important thing that you should be doing, and how you prioritise that. Yeah.
So then, looking back, tell us some of your biggest achievements.
Oh God, I think it's
our most proudest achievements.
So I think in all was creating the business and sticking with it. That is an ongoing challenge, because it comes with peaks and troughs. And I think coming to St. Helens, I was able to reconnect with what was important. So when we started this business, we were just so grateful to be in a space and dance. I was like, to see people come through the door, to create, to hear the music. And then as time went on and we had huge successes, everyone, myself included, things became about a commercial world. It became about when was the next BGT or F1, and I am so, so grateful for them experiences. But we were a core business before any of that, doing the things that we love to do, that got us there. So by the time we were third time Abu Dhabi, by the time we were third time Britain's Got Talent, it didn't feel the same, and we didn't rehearse the same as how we did first and second time around. And that came a lot of my self-reflection. So when I arrived in St. Helens and it was starting again, I found that connection, that was important about being in the space. And the people that I work with in St. Helens, they are that. The kids, when they come into the studio, are grateful to be in a space to do these things without it going, well, when are we going to this place or when are we doing that? It's just about coming into the session. So I think it was a proud moment being able to unravel and go back to what is the basis. And I will always now go back to that. Each month I'll try and go back to that, what is important and why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. So then when you look at the kids that come from St Helens and you've just said that they're very grateful, how does that link to your self-reflection and making you feel good?
It's the rawness of why you do what you do. It isn't about all of the big shows. And I hope, that I get to give the people of St Helens the opportunities that we've had in the past. I really, really do. But also without losing our identity of what is important and why we do that. Seeing those journeys that they're going on, developing as people, singers, dancers, actors, producers, what it is, seeing that grow is really, really important and uplifting. And as we start, bringing these opportunities, bringing a profile, some people might appear on some TV shows, what we're going to do, it's going to be always so important that we keep coming back to the core of why we do what we do.
And why would you say that's important to come back to your values?
Because loads of reasons. So it's the roots of who you are, and when you fall and you've got nothing, and as I keep saying, nothing, we're alive and you have to be grateful for that. But when you're in a dark place, you have to remember what was the thing that got you started and why. And that thing, as long as you still connect with it, you've always got. And that's what's so important of when you go into a space and you're with a group of dancers or singers or actors and you're creating something from scratch because you want to and you love it. And it isn't about, a TV show or something else. It's about just being in that energy and space. So going back to, that's why I always revisit the dance If by Janet Jackson, because just hearing it, it just takes me back 25 years and I go, yeah. And the dance is so old, but it's the feeling that it gives me of before I'd only dreamt about doing all of these things that we'd done. And it was listening to that song and songs like that created these things. So it's important to go back and remember that moment. There's certain studios and rehearsal spaces and people I've been around that have been so influential in my life for many different reasons while they've been in the space with that song or maybe Scream, that it's important to go back there. So right now I'm revisiting When Doves Cry, which is a track that we used years ago from the Romeo and Juliet film. And when our kids, as I call them, the dancers, when they're in the studio, they don't know this, but when I'm looking in that mirror, I can see our old mirror from Durham Road. I can see reflections of dancers. I can see the old system that we had that was there on this unit. And remembering the journey that we went on and how we got from one place to another and how it's so important for these people to have that experience.
So then when you was talking about decisions then, and you are in a position where you've got to pick from two things, how do you make the decision and then move on, whether it was a hard decision or a good decision? How do you kind of follow on from things and move yourself?
So for instance, when you're saying if you would be doing your affirmations and you choose to do something else instead, it's reflecting back. You think back. So we're all only human, but you have to think, what is the priority? So I used to, when I'd get up at 5 or 4 o'clock in the morning, before I'd get out of bed and do anything, I would have told the world of social media that I'm up at 4. And here I am. And when I started looking back, I never used to spend lots of times looking at memories on social media, but I have of late. And some of the things are I didn't need to say that. I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning for me to get to a place where I needed to be. But obviously I was looking for fulfillment on the outside. by doing that, when my energy in getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning is me with the universe, so I don't need anyone else to know that. But also on the flip side, I've probably been in the last week or so a bit more active on social media in terms of positive quotes, and I get so many people inboxing me saying I needed that today. So it has the other side of it that, you know, you never know who needed to see that quote at that time in the morning. So what I'm trying to do is have a bit of me time, and then I enjoy knowing that that's helped someone, because there's been times when I've needed to see a quote. So I'm just trying to get a balance of both of it. And it's different in getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and doing a post because you're looking at for validation, or you're getting up at that time in the morning and you're doing a post with the hope that inspires someone else.
Yeah.
So it's all of those. So again, you know, making the decisions, it comes with time and experience, and reflecting back on with each crisis or trauma or something that you face. Hopefully you're enabled to look back and go, well, what did I tell myself then, or what would have I done better? And we can only evolve as humans. It's like a muscle. You know, the more you use it, the stronger it gets, but it has to be used and challenged. So I try not to beat myself up if it you know, I'm not as vigorous, but then I will have the conversation with myself at the end of the week and say, okay, well, I didn't really achieve what I wanted to achieve this week. What would have I done different than really go at myself? So it's all, everything what you're saying about the show, the answer is reflection. Yeah. And you can only reflect after the event. Yeah,
100%. And then when you mentioned then as well of looking back at memories, so I love looking back at my memories. How does that make you feel?
So I think for the first part of the journey, so talking about self-reflection, I felt like there was so much wasted time in my life. Like there was so many things that I would have done differently, which cost me in time. Yeah. But I only know them in looking back now. So then when I avoided looking at memories because I was like, how much time did I waste there? But actually, I spent some time working on that and saying, okay, but what did you achieve in that time? And what did you learn? And there were some fantastic memories and things created, and what have been able for me to reflect. So now I do look back. And it helps me then look at the climb, you know, what has happened. But for a bit of time, it was very much about you've wasted time, or you've made some wrong decisions, but you can't stay living in that. So I had to go, well, how do I learn from it? So then when you talk, they probably help now when you talk about, so what you do now, you know, to keep yourself on track. It's probably a bit of the opposite, because I'll look and I'll go, oh yeah, remember that time, but you could have done this percentage more, or you could have made this decision, or you could have done that. Where would have you been now? Yeah. But that's only after the effect, and this is why it's reflection.
Yeah. So then what's been the hardest decision you've ever had to make?
I think decisions on being, you know, solely focused on what you're doing. I just think for me, I think I believe more and this is where self-reflection, you know, helps, because you can spend that time with yourself. So if you do feel you're still working on the business or you're working on yourself, but I feel, you know, for myself, I don't like taking my foot off the gas. So that doesn't mean slow down, because you'll take self-reflection, but you're still working on yourself. So I would say it's making them decisions of all or nothing. You know, I think and I look at some of our earlier bigger achievements of being so in the zone. And time passes, and you have to take the opportunities. So I'd say is swaying back to that part. And also I find with lockdown, you know, I'm always used to, you know, was always used to being up early, in rehearsals, late. And I think I'm grateful for the time we got in lockdown at being at home, because, you know, you didn't get some of that quality time with people, what you've had. But I also feel it's brought us into a new norm of, like, so you work well what time or what, like, I just feel like we need to get back to, I feel for my own self, of being more full on and proactive. People will probably say that when you're up at this time when you work till this time, but I think too the old pre-lockdown, and I feel like so much more was happening in that time. And it's about work-life balance in terms of your time management. So I think that has been a bit of a challenge in getting it all full throttle.
And then talking about challenges then, how do you feel when you're facing difficulty and difficult times?
So I eat my way through it. I eat the stress. I always have. That's why I say I relate to Janet Jackson, a balloon up and down. So I can be in it's only when it's really, 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 really in the darkest point will it probably start seeing presence. Not that I keep all feelings locked inside, because I have a coach that I go to. I don't think anyone should isolate any of their thoughts, feelings, emotions whatsoever. You need an outlet for that. So if I'm not in the studio dancing, I do have a coach that I see, and that really helps. But I'm normally able to mask it via food, but obviously at some point then you start putting on weight. And I've always done that, but I didn't realise till later in life that the food was the go-to for that source of comfort to eat and to mask things. So my go-to, is food. I'd say that's what I do.
And then going back to your self-reflection of a Sunday, how do you end each day?
So I finish kind of the working day of what it is on a Sunday. So I'll do a Sunday plan for the week, and that helps in case you get derailed or something. You know, I've learned in life planning is key. I spent so long not planning and just being on this hamster wheel. Whereas now I will use a Sunday to plan, and that's normally how I'll end my working day, and then it'll be feet up time with MJ and David before I go to bed. So I would do that plan. I always do it every Sunday, even if it isn't as in depth as maybe the week before, but I always do plan on a Sunday. Where am I going to go? What do I want to achieve? Who would I like to meet this week? What would I like to create? I always spend that time on a Sunday.
So then if there's any advice that you could give to anyone to have their top self-reflection, what would it be?
Again, like I started at the beginning, is to be honest with yourself. And that can be a difficult place to go, because where you're avoiding the conversations. And some people don't understand right away what their triggers are, emotions, what they need to self-reflect on. You don't always know, you know, as you go through different things or work with different people, or, you know, this whole new world of this holistic approach, you know, is only really now at the forefront, that you're looking at, like, everyday people, you know, doing this. Years ago, you know, if someone had a candle or something in the house, we'd be like, why, you know, and you'd be talking about, like, energies and different things. Whereas now, you know, it's about numerology and different things and signs, and the world is so open to that. So I'd say just looking inside to yourself, finding out what your triggers are, then what can you fill yourself up with? So I have a yellow Tuesday, you know, and that, whether the day is yellow and bright or it's dark, it's my mindset for that day. And that came from a coaching session, and it's always stuck with me. So I'd say to anyone, you know, find things that fill you up, you know, and it's also okay to spend some time on yourself and to say no. My mum is the most toughest person on herself to say no. Like, she just doesn't say it at all, you know, for what anyone needs. She'll always say yeah. And I've, you know, nowhere near as my mum, but over time, you know, that's been a real thing of mine. Whereas now I'm like, I need to be able to fill myself up. I need to look at what do I want, what are my needs, what do I want to achieve, who am I as a person. But I think for so long, which I would never change the role that I have and what we do as a business. I absolutely love that. I do that, but it's actually really, really okay for you to do the same, to spend for yourself. And there was a girl I used to work with. She sat on the board when it was the Emotions Project, Claire Jackson. And she was the first person to notice this in me. So I was given an award by the ADHD Foundation. And Claire was quite new in my life at this time. And obviously everyone sees you as this confident person, don't they? And I will get up on stage and I'll talk and do a presentation. But actually when someone was talking back at me going, well done, or you've done this, or I couldn't accept that it was all about giving, and I wasn't taking anything for it. Not that I'm going, oh, aren't I amazing? But it was quite raw when I come off the stage getting the award, and Claire said it to me, and it was like, she doesn't even know me all that well to other people, and now she's just noticed how uncomfortable I was. And that was where I started doing self-reflection work, that it's okay to praise yourself. It's okay that you've made mistakes. It's okay to love yourself. It's okay to go, I'm going to invest some time in myself. I'm going to create this because I want to. I'm going to dress this way. You know, the things that you'll do to encourage other people. I was for many years a lack in doing it to myself. It was all about supporting others, which has been my role. You know, I would never change that. But it's actually okay to, and it's a necessity. The saying goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to be able to go and fill yourself up. Otherwise, there's nothing to give to others. So you must take time for yourself. You must protect your own energy. You must remove some people from your life in a positive way. And that's absolutely okay to do that. And that, I think that was the hardest piece of work I had on myself in doing that and accepting that self-praise. Like when we talk about like Britain's Got Talent or all of these things, I say them, you know, like this, I'll always describe it as we, because it wasn't, you know, just me. But I used to always like deflect, like I'd actually made that happen, you know, all of the people that we'd supported. I kind of removed myself from any part of making that happen when it was conversations about it. And it's actually okay to give yourself a pat on the back and say, I've worked through some really difficult times, and actually I'm now going to do something for myself.
Yeah, and so you should, especially after all the work that you do for everyone else, always constantly giving. I think it's important to give that to yourself. Yeah,
it's difficult. It's different when you're on the other side and saying that. So it took me a full journey to go. And as I say, it started with Claire a couple of years ago, and she noticed it. And I'd been in complete denial of that for so long.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the Self Sunday show, talking everything self-reflection. I greatly appreciate it. And hopefully, when I've got a new series, you can come back on and talk more about MD.
We will. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
And well done.